Hey guys, how's it going? Corey and Joey here. Welcome to another edition of the Tackle Rouse First Look. We're bringing you the first look at all the new products coming out this season. And we got a new bait coming out today that I'm really excited about. Joey, I'm guessing you're pretty excited about too.
You bet. Yeah, I personally have had a lot of success on the Scottsboro Swimbait over the last couple of years, but they've got a new one. Mm-hmm. It's a new take. It's a great looking bait, and we're here to hear it directly from the mouth of two guys that have been putting some work in on this bait. We're talking to a Gunnersville stud and a Chickamauga stud. We've got Buddy Gross and we've got Alex Davis. Guys, welcome to the show. We're here to talk about the Scottsboro new Fatty Swimbait. Can you guys take us through this exciting new swimbait?
How's it going, guys? I've been a fan of the Scottsboro baits for a long time, the 5-inch, 6-inch. And the one thing about it, this new Fatty, is it's just that. It's fatty. It's just a wider bait. A lot of the gizzard shad, they're actually wider. So if you ever actually catch gizzard shad in like a net, or if you ever actually see them in person or snag one, they're a lot wider than the original Scottsboro Tactical Swim Bait. So I think that's where the whole idea just kind of matched the hatch. And personally for me, it's always having something new. Fish on ledges and Gunnersville and where Buddy fishes more and dominates Chickamauga. They've seen everything. I don't think there's a bait that they haven't seen. So you're always having to come up with something new. That's where Scottsboro Tackle came out with the Fatty. It's just a larger profile bait. It just looks different in the water. I've had it in the pool and got to mess with it. It just has in the pool, it looks a lot bigger if you're just actually physically looking at it compared to another bait. It looks bigger. It's actually the same length as the other Scottsboro baits. It's not that much bigger as far as length or weight when you're casting it, but just in the water, it's a different profile, and it's something they've never seen before. And this is the way I like to fish it. I throw it on a jig head, the ones I've got to test out and mess with it the most. That's an ounce, and it's got a big long hook. That's an 8/0 hook, ounce head, and to me, it makes the bait really keels right, and you can actually fish it deep and fish it fast. You don't have to fish it slow. Buddy does a lot of different things with it. I don't have the exact one. He's got all the pretty hooks and all the good stuff, and he's mastered that way. I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I'm typically throwing a lot around grass if I can, but when I'm fishing the deep, kind of like Alex said, moving this bait a little bit faster seems to give it a better swim profile. It really has a great wobble to it, but like Alex said, I do throw mine on the flashy swimmer. It's the owner 10/0, what I'm running in this one. But the lead head deal is great too. There's not really a bad way to throw this bait, but what I do like is the profile. It has a big, thick profile. They haven't seen it. It moves a whole lot more water, and it's just getting a lot more bites than what we have been getting on a regular profile of the other baits, just because what Alex said, everybody's got that thin profile, and it's getting seen a lot. And these fish are very educated on the Tennessee River. They're getting pounded, and this is a new bait that's giving them a new presentation that's catching a lot of big ones for us.
Yeah, Corey, that's a theme that we're hearing from some of the other pros, is just making sure that they're giving the fish a fresh look, and especially on some of these just very impacted lakes. Definitely key to have a different shape there. Guys, throwing a swim bait like this, you're going to get some big bites, you're going to get some hard bites, and especially throwing a weedless style hook. It can be frustrating for someone who's never fished one of these before to actually stick some of the big bites. Is there anything you guys are doing different, maybe with rod, with line, modifying your weighted hooks themselves? And which models are you using for these to make sure that when you get that big bite, that you're able to get the hook set and put the fish in the boat?
Yeah, I'm using the owner flashy swimmer. This is a 10/0. We are been working with owner trying to get a thinner wire hook coming out. It is hard to put this big thick gauge wire in them with fluorocarbon, so I do run a lot of braid. I have started experimenting a lot with some braid to fluorocarbon leaders when I'm on clear water presentations. But if we're in the grass, Alex and I both fish a lot of grass lakes. We're able to use braid a lot more. We get away with it. And I have learned that I do need a little more tips. So I've started losing a few fish when I went to super heavy rods. So I have gone back to like a 710. It's my ledge rod actually from Fitzgerald, but it has really helped me keep these fish on when I get them buttoned up and not open a big hole. But biggest thing is to let them get it. They'll bump it, play with it. You just really got to let the rod get loaded up a little bit before you set the hook in them in order to ensure that you get a good hook set on them.
Anything to add there, Alex?
I can't really add anything. He pretty much knocked that one out of the park. So I'm just going to repeat what he said. I throw it on a 7.7 X Pride. It's the actual heavy, their ledge rod, their swim bait rod. But pretty much what Buddy said is he knocked that one right out of the park.
Yeah, so I said, while you're throwing a weedless like that, if we didn't mention earlier, but on the bottom of the bait, it does come sealed. If you can see here, if you can cut the camera over here, but then you can easily separate it out to rig it for the weedless style. I guess, Alex, what's the case where you would rig it weedless, or would you rig it with the jig head on? It sounds like you use mostly the jig head style a lot yourself, but just time of year or situations when you use one over the other.
I like the jig head out deep on ledges, and I've actually kind of played with it. There is some heads out there that are made for throwing. Looks like a swim jig with a flashy swimmer on it. And I've actually got some made with bigger hooks just for baits like these. So it's not really weedless. It's still on a jig head. I just prefer jig head. I feel like I have better hookups. I lose less fish. That's one thing I've kind of struggled with is to use fluorocarbon. You have to set the hook a whole lot harder versus if you use braid, you don't have to jerk as hard. You actually don't want to jerk that hard and you don't want to jerk quick. It's a fine science that I've really never quite figured out perfectly. That's why I go with a jig head like this or an open hook. I feel like I can catch more. I can fish it deep. I can fish it in brush piles. If you're throwing it on like the swim jig with the blade on there, just put a big hook in it. And I got where I could fish it in the grass. It's kind of more of a pain versus a weedless hook, but it still does work. That's my preference. Buddy's taken a lot, like hundreds of thousands of dollars from a lot of people on his flashy swimmer rig. So he knows a lot more than I do about that. But I just like the jig head. I feel like if one gets around it, sniffs it, bumps it, he's mine. So I can just reel him in. You don't lose a lot of fish with this. I don't jerk real hard. When one gets it, I just let the rod load up and just reel into them and try not to let them jump. If they jump, they usually can come off just because they got so much leverage on you. Just try not to let them jump, and usually you catch just about every one of them.
I guess same question for you, Buddy. Is there a situation where you throw one over the other, or what's your approach on the weedless versus a jig head setup?
If I'm really in a real thick cover situation, I always want to be with a weedless. And if I'm open water presentation, I try my best, kind of like Alex said. I want an open hook because it makes the hook sets a lot easier. They hook themselves a lot. But I'll tell you something I've been playing with a lot lately, and Alex might probably have seen this, but let me make sure I don't mess this up. Ledge head has a hook that I've been putting internally in hollow bellies, and I've started actually putting them in some Scottsboros and gluing the bellies back up. But with this fatty profile, that ledge head it conceals inside the bait, so you get this open profile, but it also gives it no head weight in the front, and it still kind of gives it a weedless. It's not weedless, but it gives it a more subtle presentation. It's a more realistic looking bait at that time, and all you see is a hook coming out of the top, kind of like an internal weight situation. And we are learning that around the eelgrass and the hydrilla, like Alex said, you can fish it around this grass. You just got to pop it more, kind of like a rattle trap bite, and you get a lot of reaction bites out of it. So if I can get away with an open hook like that, I do it. But the flashy swimmer has been good to me. It has drawn a lot of fish to it, and I really enjoy that part of it too.
Well, Corey, it may appear that we're beating the hook choice question to death, but it is so important. A big bait like that is definitely going to get big bites, and you just want to make sure that you have your tackle, your terminal tackle, your line, your rod dialed to make sure you put those big bites in the boat. So again, that is the Scottsboro Fatty Swimbait. It's going to be available right here at Tackle Warehouse.
Available for pre-order right now. Should be coming in probably around about the time this video goes up. They should be available, but if not, go to get your pre-orders in for them and make sure to check them out. And like you guys said, you guys haven't had a chance to fish these a whole lot. They've kind of just coming out now, obviously. But, Buddy, you've had a lot of success with Scottsboro in general, especially the last few years, both on the Elites and the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. I guess just maybe talk about what your go-to swim baits are from Scottsboro. And I'm guessing you mostly fishing those on the lead style, on the those also on the flashy swimmer.
Yes, I still use them both, open hook and a flashy swimmer. But it's been great to me. But I really key on the 5-inch a lot. The 5-inch matches the hatch more places that we go. if I get if I get really good limits, then I'll switch over to the 6-inch. But 5-inch has always been my key. Natural light's my color. Tim is so versatile and so good at making any kind of colors that if we really want something special, he's good at it. But the variety that he has is awesome. And even when we come up north, the perch color that we throw, I mean, Tim is an artist that everybody don't see. That color choices he does and how perfect he matches the hatches and stuff. If I send him a picture of a shad I catch, he can match it. So, he don't make it available to everybody, but because he's got so many colors. But guys, I'm telling you, he makes great baits, great products, and great to deal with.
Awesome. Yeah, some great shapes, some beautiful finishes, like Buddy was saying, and obviously a proven fish catcher and money winner
for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll be definitely keeping track of those. I know those are going to have a place in my boat, in Corey's boat, and these two gentlemen as well. Anything else you got for these two guys?
I myself, like I said, I'm excited about that bait. Anything else I really have, but I know this is a bait that a lot of guys are talking about here in the office. Is looking at a lot of the ICAST stuff, and this one's piqued a lot of interest. So we're all gonna be picking some of those up. I know, Alex, you got anything else to add at all about the swim bait or anything else about Scottsboro?
What people don't realize is they have a 5 and a 6, but he makes a 7-inch and I believe an 8-inch too. And they actually get. I've seen smallmouth pictures from like Pickwick. Guys have the 8-inch Scottsboro and the 7-inch, and the smallmouth, a 5 or 6 pound smallmouth, has a mouth about that big, and the whole thing's actually in it. I mean, it's amazing what that bait will actually do. So I think the best tip I give someone is don't just throw a 5. I throw a 5 more than any other size there is, but it will really shock you what that 7 and bigger size will actually do. And I know he makes some trout colors that I actually do like. And he makes them for guys out where you're from, just the trout eaters. So it's a bait that that he makes a 3, a 4, I think a 4.5, 5, 6. So any size, any part of the country, I don't think you can go wrong with a Scottsboro. And this new fatty is just going to put more fish in the boat.
That's awesome. I do have one other question for Buddy now. A different way to fish it. You were throwing this back in 2019 at the FLW, now MLF Pro Circuit event, on the back of a swim jig, right? I think it was a 4-inch natty light on the back of a swim jig.
Yes, I was. And I use that as a trailer a lot. And he can also come out with a 3.5, and it's been a really good swim bait trailer. But dude, it just swims so good. The action on a swim jig is subtle. It gives it a fine little roll, and it does things for me that are, those fish that are really leery about biting because of pressure. It just entices them to bite, and I still do it. I've got one tied on every time. Alex was talking about the underspins on like a jig head type hook. They're making some of those in weedless. Some other brands are what we're using, the Megabass Uzo and some others. But I use those things all the time on those baits, and it really works well.
Awesome, guys. Some great info. Thanks for taking us through the tips on how to fish these, not just the new fatty, but all the Scottsboro swim baits.
Definitely. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Thanks for you guys for tuning in to Tackle Rail's first look. Make sure to get you guys pre-orders in for the Scottsboro Fatty because they're going to be hot.
This is Joey, Corey, for the gentlemen on Zoom, signing off.
See you guys.